heard, and like most people in Pakistan tech industry, we've all heard of you, most especially as your role at Mobilink, where you were the architect and the driver for the telecom revolution in Pakistan. In fact,
That's very kind.
when we went out with the invitation about this webinar and the talk with you, I started receiving messages from people who had worked with you at Mobilink and who are now working in all parts of the world, especially in the US. And they were saying that, that was the best time of our career in terms of seeing the growth and learning. So you have not only impacted Pakistan's economy and Pakistan's tech and telecom sector, but you've also directly impacted the lives of people who worked with you, who trained with you, who have gone out and now working in senior positions all around the world, as well as, of course, enabling the kind of growth and the whole ecosystem which the telecom revolution eventually led to. So I'm particularly delighted to get this time to talk to you and also hear about your new platform, Teamup, where you're supporting startups in Pakistan with the experience which you have. And I also wanted to highlight that you are a member of the government's task force on IT, and I'm sure that we will have a lot of questions for you with that hat on to get your views on the overall tech ecosystem and how can it be improved.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you for all the kind words. My heart really swells every time I hear about all the lovely people that I had an opportunity to work with in the days of Mobilink and how well they're doing, mashallah, across the world. It makes makes me very proud, very happy. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. So, Zouhair Saab, would love to start with Teamup. Typically, the format of these webinars are that I can kick off with a few questions in the start, and then we'll open up for Q&A. And people who have questions can write it down on chat, and then I'll read them over to you. Some people do want to show a presentation on slides, so in case you want to show us anything, you are the host, so you can do that as well.
No, thank you very much. I don't have any slides, but what I'll try and do is, you asked about Teamup, and so Teamup, Ali, has been in practice now for almost 6 years, if my memory serves me right. My partner Pervez Abbasi, who is also a long time member of the telecom field in Pakistan. We first met in Instaphone in 1992, and I've known each other as friends and colleagues for that period of time. We were both in London in the 2015, sort of late 2015 timeframe, and we got together over many coffees and catch-ups to kind of discuss what we would want to do next in our lives. And I think the overwhelming answer was that we wanted to do something to give back to Pakistan and the young people of Pakistan in whatever way we could, sharing our experiences, our knowledge, and so on. And hence Teamup, the company, was born. And we initially just wanted Teamup to be a web portal where people could maybe contact us. We would interact with them in terms of just Zoom calls like this. And in 2015, 16, Zoom wasn't a big thing at the time, but there were other mediums. But the universe works with you in strange ways sometimes. And the government of Pakistan at the time announced that it was also looking to set up an incubation center. And working with them, we realized that they were actually going to go through an RFP. Teamup then reached out to our former company Mobilink, now known as Jazz, as a partner in this process, and we teamed up to basically bid for the RFP, and I sometimes say utter shock and horror, but actually to our very pleasant surprise, we won the bid, and hence the establishment of the National Incubation Center. And the concept there is that it is a place where people with dreams, with ambitions, with ideas can come and apply. We go through a very stringent process of filtering in and the right sort of people who we can work with. And we then help nurture them, incubate them, train them in how to establish a business and scale it up, make the product viable, and take it to market. We also look to investors to give funding and so on. So it's been a wonderful journey. It's been now almost 5 years in November this year, where we've had this tremendous privilege and opportunity to work with people from across the country, and sometimes even from outside the country, to nurture the ideas. Uh, Obviously technology driven, because that's our basic, and the fund the place where the funding comes from is called the Ignite Technology Fund, and the Ministry of IT and Telecom obviously is the overall sort of umbrella organization which oversees all of this. And so these are our partners, the Ministry of IT and Telecom, the Ignite Technology Fund, Mobilink, now known as Jazz, and Teamup. And together we kind of hope, we hope to create some sort of magic where young people can actually, not necessarily young, but people who have ideas can actually bring them to some sort of reality, and start living their dreams.
Thank you. That's fascinating, and I'm aware that NIC recently also won some international accolades for the work
Indeed.
which you have done. Would love to know more about NIC, and would be great if you can share some statistics on, how many companies have you incubated, how many people, how many jobs they have created, which sectors does it focus on.
Yeah.
Um,
So look, I mean, as I said, it's been an amazing journey. Over this period, we have incubated 235 teams, if I remember correctly, something like 400 and some founders from virtually every section of technology. So, you name it, and we've had that sort of technology in the incubation center. So we look at e-commerce, we look at fintech, we look at agri-tech, we look at ed-tech. Um, uh, a lot of those companies and the technologies based on AI and blockchain technologies as well. So it's a very wide spectrum, very, very exciting, because all of it is stuff which is happening in other parts of the world, but here we are making homegrown companies, bringing them together, and launching them into the Pakistan market, which, as you know, is a huge market, 222 odd million people. Um, we've so far, if we look back, the companies together have created almost 10,000 jobs in the marketplace. There's been about 1.4 billion rupees of investments and about 1.6 billion rupees of revenues generated by the companies altogether. So almost 3 billion rupees of return, if you will. So when you compare it with the funding that we've received over this period of time, it's a 7x return to the government in terms of the investment that they've put into this. So I would argue that that's a fantastic number to look at. When you look at the number, I mean, you may have heard of recent successes. One of our star companies just a couple of weeks ago, DigiKhata, actually got funded $2 million, and from the international venture capital community as well. So we look at all of this as the beginnings of something very, very exciting in Pakistan, where homegrown companies, people from our local market, are addressing local issues in the local marketplace. So whether, as I said, whether it's in the commerce industry or it's the finance and fintech industry and so on. But I think it's a very exciting time to be in Pakistan. Again, if you look back 2 or 3 years, there were virtually no venture capital funds in Pakistan or focused on Pakistan. And now, as we speak today, there's over 22 venture capital funds who are focused on investing in Pakistan at this point in time. And I think that is a testament to the fact that the ecosystem is moving very, very rapidly. Just to give you some other interesting numbers, in 2020, which, as we all know, is COVID year, 77 million US dollars of VC funding came into the startup community in Pakistan. And this was 97% more than 2019. But when we look at 2021, also COVID affected year, till the end of June this year, we've already received $135 million of VC funding. So more than almost twice what we had in all of last year, and it's just half the year yet. So we're looking at things ballooning, expanding exponentially in the next few months and the rest of this year as well. So very excited.
That's very, the statistics which you shared were indeed very impressive. And what made it doubly impressive was that, first you contributed as the helm of one of the largest companies in Pakistan, and then you contributed by helping the smallest companies in Pakistan. So I found that very fascinating. And
Some of
earlier,
these small, Ali, some of these small companies are destined to be billion-dollar companies, inshallah, in Pakistan. So we're just seeing the roots being set in place right now, and I think it's a great time to be in Pakistan.
Absolutely. Thank you for that optimism, which the message as well as the work which you're doing. The other thing which is interesting is that, when you were describing the structure of NIC, in terms of the funders which you have, which include, as you mentioned, Jazz, your team, as well as the ministries, so the government, and then you are supporting startups. Now, historically, there was this perception of disruption. So people thought that perhaps startups, by definition, might be at arms with the larger companies because they're disrupted. The David versus Goliath scene, but increasingly it's becoming apparent that actually the whole ecosystem has to work together, and it's not about disruption; it's more about enabling. And you have done that, right? You bought these organizations together which one thought might never work with each other smoothly. How has that experience been? What was the reception when you deal with the government as well as when you deal with large organizations such as your former employer Jazz, and then you use them to work with startups?
So it's a very varied experience. Obviously, when you talk about the government, they have their own set procedures and methodologies and very fixed views on a lot of things. Generally speaking, again, we talk about somewhere like Jazz now, a very very large company, and of course, it's driven by processes and systems and hierarchy and everything else. Whereas when you're in a startup world, none of those things exist. Everything is up for grabs. Everything is, you invent it as you go along, and you make it up on a literally hourly basis, if not even more so. But it's been a very interesting journey because we've had tremendous support from the ministry. We've had amazing support from the Ignite Technology Fund, and of course from Jazz, because again, they identify with the technology part of it. They recognize some of the potential that is sort of sitting there waiting to be taken to the next stage. So within the NIC, for example, Jazz has what is called the Jazz Accelerate program. So companies which have gone through the incubation process and are showing exceptional sort of potential to grow and get to the next stage are then included into the Jazz Accelerate program, for example. Now, the art, of course, of all of this is to while you're, as you very rightly mentioned, there is a lot of disruption being created, but at the same time to try and marry it into process and system and everything else, and that is a daily challenge I would have to accept. And because we've lived at the other end of the spectrum, both my partner Parvez and I. Parvez, again, by the way, created something called a Mobile Zone, which again was $1 billion revenue company in its heyday. So we've been at both ends of the spectrum. We remember when Mobilink started in 1993, I was employee one at Mobilink. And so we had to start from scratch. There was nothing there. The experience was amazing. We went through literally, finding teams and creating a small office and then growing it to where we are today. So we've had, I guess, the privilege of the experience at both ends of the network, as it were, from very small to very large. And what we try every day is to bring that experience, that knowledge of so many years, and try and match it all together. And I think that's the excitement which carries us every day in what we do.
Indeed, it's very very impressive, and the fact which, as you said, that you have lived it before, so your views are much more credible, as well as you have built it from ground one, so you know exactly what the challenges are as well. And and there are not too many people, I suppose, in Pakistan who have done that, especially in that scale. Um, I met your colleague recently in London, Pervez Saab, and he was telling about some amazing initiatives of Teamup, which are in the pipeline. For example, he was interested in getting the diaspora to connect more with the tech community, both in terms of investing in the companies, but also working with the companies or joining these companies, as well as supporting diaspora-based startups. Can you give us some more details about your plans for Teamup?
Yes, so look, I mean, again, it's as I said, it's been an amazing time for Pakistan over the last 2 or 3 years, and increasingly the diaspora community is looking very positively at Pakistan at this point in time, and of course, again, very excited about the opportunities that are offered within the country. So we, because of our own history, both Parvez and myself, having lived abroad for so many years, we have a good connection with the community at both ends, and a lot of very interesting conversations have been taking place where, a lot of the diaspora, for example, offer themselves in terms of mentors and guides to the startups at the NIC, and we're very privileged to have people like that give their time, their knowledge, their wisdom to our startup. So and because of COVID in a way, and Zoom and Teamup, Microsoft Teams, for example, the way to connect has become much easier, if you will. Previously, you would think of getting on a flight to come to somewhere and talk to people, but it's so much easier just to dial up. And so we're very, as I said, very, very excited to have a lot of them who are offering their time and mentorship and guidance on the one hand. A lot of them are also very interested in looking at opportunities to invest in startups and see if that will help those startups to grow to the next stage. So we've recently created something called Teamup Angels, which is another platform that we have where we basically connect startups with angel investors. So these are people from anywhere in the world, and we put it out there, and there are people from the US and from the UK, Europe, Singapore, Malaysia, and so on, who are connecting with us and saying, and every couple of weeks we have a platform where we bring in maybe 3 of the best startups that we can find. And it's not just related to the NIC. It's open to anybody, any startup who wants to be part of Teamup Angels. And they register with us, they log on with us, we do a sort of a due diligence on them. And similarly for angel investors, we do a due diligence, make sure they are on the level, they are the people who are there saying they are. And we connect them together and we present to them. And in a lot of cases, the angel investors get very excited about what they see. They offer time, mentorship, guidance, and more than often they will also offer angel investment into the startup. So that's another kind of bridge that we have built over the last sort of 6 months, which hopefully will go to the next stage, inshallah, as we progress.
Inshallah. And your message throughout has been very optimistic. You said that with quite conviction that Pakistan will have billion-dollar companies in this sector, and these smaller companies. So would love to hear your views on, do you think there are there particular sectors in which there will be certain promising companies, or do you think the opportunity is generic and in all the verticals? So how can investors spot the next billion-dollar company in the sector?
So look, I mean, if you look at Pakistan today, as I said, 220 million odd people. There's 180 million mobile connections in the country and growing. Over 100 million of these people are connected on 3G, 4G, wireless broadband. So they have access to the internet. They have access to the world, for that matter. And the proliferation of smartphones is now growing by the day. There's a lot of work going on around making sure that smartphones are cheaper. The government has recently given out various licenses to local manufacture of smartphones as well. So what it does is it gives access to people. And what that means then is that there is no sector which is out of bounds. So, you know, again, because of the COVID phenomena over the last year and a half, we've realized that you can conduct teaching, schooling from a distance. So distance learning is something that will grow. A lot of universities, a lot of colleges are talking about this. We're talking to some of them ourselves in helping them establish something like that. Medicine, for example, again, you know, we've always been constrained by the size of the population, the size of the country, but with e-medicine, e-health kind of apps coming around, new startups happening, that again is becoming an area which I think has huge potential for growth. Um, Agriculture is one of the biggest things in Pakistan, of course, and it is the employer for, I think, over 40% of the population of the country. Um, Again, you know, with technology, with the latest apps, with the latest science, um, there are, you know, startups coming out which are helping the farmer in the small farmer, for example, to assess the production of his crops, the availability of water, the way he waters his crop, the accessibility to the marketplace, the pricing of crops, and so on and so forth. So it's an area which is sitting there like a gold mine waiting to be had. Um, if you look at e-commerce, for example, again, because everything is accelerated in this last year and a half, and you see that even the local Karyana store chap who in the past would depend on people walking in, paying him cash and taking his goods, is now saying to me on his WhatsApp, he's saying, sir, I have the following for you. And if you just remit it to my bank account, I will have a guy on a motorbike come and deliver it to you. So that's the start of the Deliveroos and you know, the food pandas of this world. And that's beginning to happen. And to overlay all of this is the fintech industry. And again, if you watch the news every day, uh, hundreds of millions of dollars have come into the fintech industry in the last year and a half, 2 years. And because that is the kind of the glue for all of this, because in each of these activities, in the end, you're going to have to pay somehow. And the fintech chaps are the ones who are working very hard to make that happen. Um, in addition, as I mentioned, one of our stars, Digikata, earlier, and I'm sorry, it's the only one I'm mentioning, as I don't want to be unfair to the others, but the reason it sticks is because it's only a couple of weeks ago, are actually working towards digitizing the kata system within the small shopkeeper sort of segment. And that also, what it does is it allows the whole area to be documented. It allows, therefore, the building of a forecast for what their expenditures are, and maybe even to an extent where they will start getting, small micro loans and stuff as working capital and so on. So across the entire, spectrum of these various startups, you will find that there is huge potential. And when we talk to international investors, we look at venture capital funds, and we look at our international diaspora, they are extremely aware that all of this is happening. And because they've seen it happen in other countries, it's very easy for them to understand that this is going to go somewhere very quickly.
Thank you. Thank you for highlighting those sectors and those areas, and certainly the opportunity is huge. We are open for questions, so, and I know I've noticed that people have already started posting questions, so
Okay.
please do that for the next 16 minutes. But in the meanwhile, I'll ask you one more question before I open it up for the audience. You also are part of the government's task force on IT, and recently Pakistan, the IT exports have crossed $2 billion. Do you think when you engage with the government at various levels, at the top level, at highest level, as well as the ministry levels, how serious do you think their commitment is towards the sector? And do you think that the sector will get more incentives and push from favorable policies of the government?
I believe so. I'm very, very optimistic. I think a lot of work has happened over the last few years. The task force, of course, I mean, I'm part of it, so I may be a little bit biased, but we work very hard with the government, with the ministry, and other stakeholders to highlight the areas which need attention, where legislation needs to come in, where maybe the regulatory framework has to be refined and redefined, if you will. So all of that is in the making. It's in the works, and I think this is a result of what you see right now. The software industry crossing the $2 billion mark. I think it's just the beginning. Uh, so there are various factors to this which I would like to highlight, if you'd allow me a couple of minutes.
Please
Look,
do.
I mean, you know, you can talk about the numbers and the couple of $1 billion. It could go to $10 billion. It's one of the numbers that's been thrown around many, many times. There's a lot of things which have to happen for that to materialize over a period of time. One is simply the way we treat software exports, the freelancers and the companies who are doing that work. We need to be able to make sure that the taxation system is fair to them and is not scary for them. Sometimes that happens. So that's something that is under review. It's under constant discussion every day. And I think a number of very drastic, radical changes have to take place in that area for this to really flourish to the next stage. So that's very important. Um, at the same time, within our education system today, and I'm talking now more macro level, a lot of work has to be done to produce the kind of software export which is of a higher margin. Okay, so a lot of our software export today is at the lower margin levels, and again, it needs training, educational, vocation training, all of that to make sure that we rise up that value chain in the export area, because we're competing with the likes of obviously India, China, Cambodia, the Philippines, Vietnam, and so many others. And we need to make sure that we are better than all of them in the long run. And that's another area which needs a lot of attention. Uh, Another area which I would want to highlight at this stage is when we talk about all of the startups, when we talk about the software exports, one of the major discussions we have within the task force and with the government and the stakeholders is about building the railway line, if you will. You know, you talk about us and Mobilink all those years ago. We set the basic railway line out there, and then you have to put the bogies on top, as it were, and then the passengers in the bogies. Look at it that way. Today, we have a lot of issues with spectrum and the availability of spectrum, the pricing of spectrum. And again, lots of discussions have taken place on this. But I think a paradigm shift needs to take place for this to really flourish to the next stage. So, and one of the and a lot of this is happening at this point in time in terms of discussions. A lot of decisions are awaited to open up this area where spectrum is more available. Spectrum is more available at affordable prices, because we are, remember, a lower average revenue per user country, ARPU as we call it. So we need to match that with the expectations on the pricing on the spectrum and so on. Also, there are things like right of way. When you dig and put in the optic fiber into the ground, different parts of the country have different expectations, and the stakeholders in those areas, often government entities or local bodies or local municipalities, want to make that a kind of a revenue generating business. But that is short term. And if you look at the long term, what you need to be able to do is to make sure that there is proliferation of optic fiber, of spectrum, of availability of smartphones, as I said before, to make all of this happen. And all of this has to happen. It will only happen if the policies and the regulations are adapted for a long-term vision of all of this. And I mean, in a forum like this, I can only go into a broader description of it. There's a lot more that needs to happen. But I think those are fundamental issues which will need to be also addressed so that we hit those billions of dollars of exports, so we get those billion-dollar companies within Pakistan and so on.
Thank you for highlighting those issues, and I have loads of other questions, but just I'm conscious of time, and I don't want to be greedy to just take all of your time for myself. So I'm moving on to the questions from the audience, and the first question is
Yeah.
from Sayed. He's asking that, do you think the startup space is big enough for big companies like Engro and Lucky to team up with platforms such as yours for funding? Have you approached them to create a pool? Um, I'm assuming he's saying pool of investments for investing
Yeah.
in stuff.
Yeah. Look, the startup space, as I said, is just beginning to start. Okay, so it's the initial days. There is lots of room, as I keep saying. We have a huge population, and they need all of the stuff that I've described earlier. All of those technology-based solutions are just waiting to happen. So absolutely, we need, there is lots of space. There is also lots of opportunity for the companies that have been mentioned to come in and invest with us, because that is exactly how this thing will go to the next stage. And those are discussions that we are beginning to start now, and we are beginning to look at and say, how can we harness the investment opportunity and direct it in a way that it will go benefit the startups and eventually, of course, the investors as well, because that's how it works.
And I suppose the question was implying in terms of how has the feedback been from some of the early meetings which you've had with these companies? Do you think that even the old large companies outside of the telecom sector, they are now
Yes.
interested in, or they are aware of unconscious of the opportunity set?
They are very much so. And a lot of these companies actually at the moment are engaging with us at Teamup and the NIC. You know, very senior people from these companies are engaging as our mentors, advisors. They are coming in to offer their knowledge and experience to the startups. So that part has already been established. And I think the next part is the investment, the financial part. And I think that is a natural consequence of how we develop over the next few months, the next year, inshallah.
Thank you. Moving to the next question, that's with your role as with NIC, and Fahad Faizan is asking that to become a part of NIC, is there any requirement for the co-founders to be living in Pakistan?
No, my answer to that is no. There is no hard and fast requirement. There is, however, a very stringent process that we work every 6 months, where we go out and do a kind of a recruitment campaign. The next one will inshallah start in a few months' time. So keep your eyes and ears open. We normally do it on social media. So LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter is where we will be when we get there. To give you an idea, the last cohort we onboarded, I think we had like 16 or 1700 applications, and we had to shortlist 25 startups. So it is competitive. It is something that we work very hard at. And when I say we, I, for example, do not sit in on the selection process at all. Parvez Abbasi, my co-founder, does not. We have independent third-party experts come in and do the judging round so that it is completely transparent and independent. What we're looking for in startups is a great idea, but more importantly, we're looking at a great team. People who have what we would like to see is the potential, the resilience, and the ability to take this forward. Because remember, startups are not easy. It's something where you fail over and over and over again. And the only people who succeed are the ones who keep getting up and keep doing it the next day again and move to the next stage. So that would be my message to people who are thinking of doing a startup or applying to the NIC. Please do, but remember, it's a hard journey and you have to be prepared for it. But what I can also tell you, and having lived through it myself a couple of times, is that it is absolutely worth it.
Thank you. I do have a question on this particular point, but I'll save it for the last. Soman is asking, I'm rephrasing the question. They're asking that for NIC, do you also take early stage application of when the company is just at an idea stage?
So typically, yes, we will take an idea stage as well. And we will help you through the 12-month process, where we will help you develop the idea into a product, into a service, make it a market viable product. We will help you to put a strategy together to scale it and take it to market and all of that. So, but as I said, the idea has to be a great one. It has to be something which is implementable, and more importantly, whether the team is capable of doing that. And that's where we assess. That's how we assess all of it.
Thank you. There's a follow-up question from her about him about application, and you have
Yes.
already said that the applications will be open soon, and it will be through
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah. It's all online. The best thing to do is to go to www.nicpakistan.pk and keep watch, because we will obviously put it on our website when the timing is right. And also watch out for, as I said, the other social media platforms, and we'll be there as well, inshallah.
Thank you, Omar. There's a question. There's a comment from Omar that we should have spoken in Urdu. Omar, apologies for that. I led the questions in English, so I suspect कि आप काफी late हो गए for switching back now to Urdu, and perhaps the reason for that is I'm based in London. That automatically work language is
See.
English. So apologies for that. Zouhair Saab, one thing which is very noticeable in this conversation in the last 40 minutes is that your optimism, your positivity. And being an entrepreneur in Pakistan, I do realize that there's a scarcity of that. I think, especially people of older ages, like, typically they're more very grumpy and always pointing the
Yeah.
issues. And I suspect that, your positivity comes because of your success, your previous success as an entrepreneur, where you have led a company which, as you said, that when you joined, you were employee number 0, and then 180 million people have mobile phone connections in Pakistan. I would love to learn from your experience of that journey. How difficult was it? And, how did you, what were the enabling factors, and how much were the challenges, and how did you overcome all of those challenges? Did it feel daunting at that time when you were starting? I'm sure there must be naysayers at that time saying this is not possible, you will fail. So I would love to learn from your lessons from your that particular journey.
That's a great question, Ali. You know, one often has a tendency to look at somebody, Allah ka karam hai, I'm sitting where I am, and assume ke bas aise hi tha. That's not how it works, okay? So if I start telling you about the failures I've had, all the times I've fallen, and, had looked at the future and said, oh my God, what will happen? I would be here for the next 10 hours. But that's not the point. The point is that in life, whether you're sitting in London or in New York or in Pakistan, only the people who have a positive outlook are the ones who will succeed. अगर आप सुबह उठ के कहते हैं कि हाय मर गए, तो फिर yes, that's exactly what will happen, okay? But अगर आप कहते हैं कि it's a new day and I'm going to start over again, that's the spirit that I'm looking for in every person out there, okay? Because those are the people who will succeed. I'll give you the example. हम सब छोटे थे, एक दिन हमने crawling से एक दिन खड़े होके walking शुरू की. हम गिरे, एक दफा, दो दफा, 10 दफा, 100 दफा गिरे होंगे. But the reason why we are here today is because each time we got up and we started walking again. We had no fear as a child. We had no fear कि ये कैसे होगा. But as we grow older, we are filled sometimes with fear and apprehension कि पता नहीं अब मैं ये करूँगा तो ये हो जाएगा. Yes, sure, होगा, absolutely होगा. But then, as I said, if you look at the big successes in the world, we all look up to the people like Richard Branson in the UK, for example. You look at Elon Musk today, or Jeff Bezos and all those. You think those guys didn't fail? They probably failed 100 times, okay? But the secret to their success is because they got up and did it again, and again, and again. And there is just no other way. That is the actual definition of life. You have to get up and do it again. Optimism, again, is a state of mind. It doesn't come because of success. It comes whether you failed or you reach success, but as long as you are able to see a bright future ahead. आप सुबह उठें, अल्लाह का शुक्र है, if you're breathing, your family is next to you, the sun is shining, or sometimes it's raining today. But the point is कि आपको अल्लाह ने सेहत दी, आपको एक मौका दिया, don't waste it, do it again, because sooner or later the people who keep doing it are the ones who will get there. Classic example is a guy called Steve Jobs. मैं इस वक्त एक एप्पल के कंप्यूटर पे बैठ से आपके बात कर रहा हूँ. Read his life story and see how many times he failed before he succeeded. So ये सारी चीजें जो हैं, I think is part of the learning of achieving eventual success. As I said, I could go on about all the times I failed, but that's not the point here. The point is, go ahead and do it every day.
Thank you so much for that lovely message, and it's a great learning about persistence and positivity, and as you said, resilience. Great. I'm just sneaking in one more question. I'm conscious that we have exceeded the 40 minutes time. Fahad is asking, again regarding to NIC, he's asking that what is Teamup's role in NIC? Are there different websites, like on Teamup's website, there's an online submission for startups. Is that application form also valid for NIC, or is that separate? And what is the...
It should be, the best way to do this is, I said earlier, www.nicpakistan.pk. Okay? Teamup's role is we are the service delivery partner at the National Incubation Center. So the Teamup team, my team, Parvez's team, we are the people who run the NIC on a day-to-day basis. We manage all their daily activities. We manage the startups. We manage the curriculum. So all of that is done by us. And the way to apply is, as I go to the website, and that's where you'll find the link. As I said, abhi time nahi hua hai. Jab wo time aayega in the next maybe three months or so, it'll be all over social media, and you'll know for sure.
Thank you. Just squeezing in one last question. It's from Saad Kaka Khel. You have already alluded to some of the points which he has asked for. And he's saying that isn't the availability of internet the major obstacle for tech development, especially in the rural areas where 70% of the population lives? I think.
Gee, that's a good point. And I referred to it earlier, जो मैंने अभी comments किए थे, कि हमारे मुल्क में अभी we are still moving in that direction. Yes, the availability of internet is a crucial factor. It is a critical factor. A lot of work and a lot of discussion is going on around that all the time. It's being driven by the task force, of course, but of course by the mobile network operators. It's being driven by the ISP providers, and so on. So there's so many stakeholders who are very conscious that this is an area that we need to address more and more. And as I said, inshallah, this will also start happening soon. But again, I always look at the glass half full rather than half empty. And as I'll repeat those numbers, 50% of our population is access to 3G and 4G connections. 100 million people. 100 million people, and Ali, aap baithe in London mein, unki total UK ki population mera khayal hai 70 million hai, 75 million. Okay. So we have more people connected on internet today than the entire population of the United Kingdom. एक part है, that's how I look at it. Yes, the other part is कि दूसरे 100 को अभी नहीं मिला और इंशाल्लाह उस पे काम हो रहा है, as I keep saying. But keep your eye on the positive things, and I think that'll be a way better way of succeeding in the future, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Zouhair Saab, for your time and for this lovely discussion and all the positivity which you've given us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Khuda Hafiz.